Welcome to another episode of the Mark Ormrod podcast. This is going to be a brief episode because, as you know, this is new and I am toying around with some ideas as we record and create this podcast. And one of the ideas that I had, if I didn't have any guests, to keep momentum and to be consistent, was to just jump on when I had something that I felt that I had to say, something that might be of value to anybody listening to it. And this morning, as I finished getting the life beaten out of me at jiu-jitsu, I was driving home and I had something that I thought might be of value. So I came home, had lunch, and here I am, sat down in my office at my laptop, recording something, which I hope you find interesting. Now, if you follow me on social media, you will know a new company was launched, a company called Kaizen Summit, of which I am a director with several other members of, or former members of, the British military. So I thought one of the things I could do with this podcast is create these shorter episodes. I don't know what I'm going to call them yet. I had an idea I might stick with called the Kaizen Cast, because that's kind of cool. That's a lot of K's or C's. Do you know what? That's what we're going to do. So we're going to call this the Kaizen Cast. And this episode of the Kaizen Cast is about failure. Now, why do I want to talk to you about failure? Because on the weekend just past, I had some success. However, there was a lot of failure that led to that success. Now, what am I talking about? I strapped what is left of my body to a 2.34 ton Ford Ranger 4x4 pickup truck, and I dragged that pickup truck 100 meters to set a new world record. I used a pair of prosthetic legs called stubbies, which makes me 4 foot 3 inches tall. And it was pretty tough. It was pretty brutal. I had the idea a long time ago when I watched my friend Heather pull a truck. She's a retired professional rugby player, extremely athletic, extremely fit, extremely strong. And I watched her do it, and the way she did it with the low center of gravity, almost like a lion stalking its prey in the jungle. And I thought, well, if I put my little legs on, maybe I can do something like that. So I did. I had a truck at the time myself, so I found somewhere quiet, strapped myself to it, pulled it, realized that it was a possibility. So we started on this journey of trying to set a world record and continue our mission of raising £1 million for real charity. Now, I said I was going to talk about failure, and that is because the first time I attempted this, I failed. The first attempt took place in Essex on an airfield, an active airfield, and we were loaned a pickup truck by Ford headquarters up in London. And because I live in Plymouth and the attempt was in Essex, and by the way, these are not excuses. One of the things that we teach at Kaizen Summit as mentors is the principle of extreme ownership. So everything is my fault. No matter if it's not my fault, it's my fault because I didn't predict it, didn't plan for it, etc. So this was completely on me. I'm not saying because it was 5.5 hours away in the car that it was anybody else's fault. It was completely my fault. But I failed that attempt because I didn't prep well enough. I didn't prep well enough. I didn't prepare well enough. I didn't ask enough questions. I didn't check enough of the variables. And when we got there to that active airfield, I very quickly realized on the morning of the event that the surface wasn't great. I could have prepared my prosthetic legs a little bit better. Could have put a bit more rubber on them to give me a bit more grip. I could have wore a prosthetic arm, which I didn't do on that first attempt. I could have got someone who lived up there to give me a bit of a detailed explanation of the terrain, of the surface. Anyway, the reason that didn't go to plan, I got about 54 meters on that attempt, and running down this active runway right across the center of my route was the drainage for the runway. So there was a slight dip in the tarmac to accommodate for the drains, to direct all the water to go down the drains. And when the front wheels of the truck went down there, I didn't have enough strength or technical grip or anything to get it out. So I failed that first attempt. I then set a date for a second attempt. I had to cancel that second attempt because the weather was terrible. I forget the name of it, but there was a storm just before Christmas. And it's not that I'm averse to being out in the elements. It might have actually been a benefit for me if the wind was behind me. However, there were people traveling from all over the country. We had cameramen, we had drone operators, and I didn't want to mess them around. I didn't want to get there on the day and then have to call it, because some people came down from London. They travel from all over the UK. So we cancelled that attempt. And then the third attempt, this is what I'm talking about failure, because there's no such thing. This time I took the quote unquote failures, what I like to call lessons learned, from that first attempt, and I changed everything. I fixed the issues with my legs. I decided to wear a prosthetic arm this time because one of the issues I had originally was the harness that I was wearing was cutting off the blood flow to my only good arm. The lactic acid was building up in it, and I had no way of resting that arm. So this time I wore a prosthetic which I could lean on to just shake the arm out and get rid of that lactic acid and get that blood flowing back. I recce'd the route. I picked the route this time 20 minutes from my house. Went to an athletics track in a place called Tavistock College and Tavistock Athletics Club very kindly let us use the track. That is as flat as any piece of earth could possibly be. And Guinness, this was a world record attempt, Guinness deemed an athletics track flat, so there was no need to get a surveyor this time around like we did the last time. The 100 meters is obviously marked out for sprinters, so that was great. I didn't have to do any of that. I didn't have to mark anything out and get that officiated by any surveyors. And I changed everything else that was an issue from the first time around. And guess what the result was? The result was that this time around, we did it. We succeeded. It took, I think, just over 17 minutes. So it took a lot longer than I had hoped. And let me be clear on this. Sometimes there are things that you can't really plan for, although they are still my fault. So the only issue we had this time around was that it was very cold. And the track had ice on it, which caused me to keep slipping. But we worked through that. Again, that was my fault. I could have waited. I could have waited an hour, let the sun come up, melt the ice, did the attempt then. But I don't like waiting around, and I don't like having other people hang around. So we just decided to crack it at the original time. Took a little longer than we thought, like I said, but we did it. Now, I didn't record this very quick podcast to talk about the success that we had. Like I said, this is about failure. Now, for a very long time, I have been of the mindset that failure doesn't exist. If you learn the lessons from your first, second, third attempt, whatever it may be, and you test and adjust, you make those adjustments and you keep going, that is where the magic is, in that resilience and that ability to maintain enthusiasm in the face of potential defeat and just keep going, keep moving forward, keep putting one foot in front of the other. And, you know, I'm not a particularly smart bloke. I'm not a particularly clever bloke, but I am stubborn. And I do not like to feel defeated. So I'll just keep going until eventually I succeed. And that's about as magic as the formula gets. So I hope that was useful. I hope that was encouraging. I hope anyone that's listening to this that may potentially be going through some challenges, may feel like they failed at something. And this, this is across the board in anything in life, whether it's as a parent, as an employee, as an athlete, whether it's to do with your finances, a business you start, whatever it is. Use those quote unquote failures as valuable opportunities to learn, and make sure that you take those lessons that you learn, test and adjust, and just keep going. And it really is that simple. All right, that's it. I've waffled on long enough. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Kaizen Cast. If you did, do all that stuff that the kids tell you to do. Like it, subscribe it, share it, send it, tag people, whatever it is you can do. I appreciate you listening. Appreciate you supporting the podcast. Thank you all.